Hello and welcome to Business 7. Should Namibia delink from the South African rand? What is the state of food insecurity in the country? And should Namibia rather consider alternatives for power generation instead of relying on Eskom? These are some of the questions we will tackle in tonight's Business 7. Please stay tuned.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
Our main story in Business 7 today, which you of course can read in Namibian Sun, Republican and Algemeine Zeitung newspapers, as well as on the websites of the publications, is about food insecurity in Namibia. Let's take a look at the latest statistics. The percentage of Namibia's population experiencing high level of acute food insecurity, which currently stands at 22%, is projected to rise to 26% between next month and March 2024. These Namibians are in need of urgent action. Compilers of the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, said in their latest report, and the IPC's visual snapshot of the situation in Namibia is what we are currently showing you. According to the IPC, 3 drivers are key and responsible for the dire situation. 1, dry spells, 2, price shocks, and 3, unemployment. According to the IPC, urgent action is required to save lives, reduce food consumption gaps, and protect livelihoods, especially for those classified in the IPC Phase 3 or above, and that means crisis or worse. The human tragedy of these figures is evident from Walvis Bay Rural Councillor Florian Donatus. He spoke to Prime Minister Kukangalwa Amadila at a meeting last week at the coast. Let's take a look.
How are we going to help these people? This has become a problem whereby our offices are being frequented by people that are very hungry, to an extent that we are giving up our own salary to these people to feed them. And sometimes that disturbing, not even want to go to the office, because if I help out today and tomorrow, how is it sustainable? And it's high time that the drought relief must also maybe come back. There are certain people that should we happen to not give them a bag of maize as a regional councillor, they got nowhere to go eat. I'm pleading with the office of the Prime Minister through the disaster management team and everything there around, please to relook at the situation and find a way. How are we going to accommodate those vulnerable that find themselves in the vicinity of town? The rural area, that one is sorted, and I'm happy. I'm one of those people that have got a rural constituency, and my people in the rural area are catered for. But we are struggling with those that are in the urban center, and this thing is being fueled by the fact that majority of our people due to COVID have been retrenched, and the majority of people have lost their job, and companies have closed, and a lot of people that don't work are too many than those that are working, more especially in Walvis Bay rural constituency. Thank you. That is my point number 1. Point number 2, Right, Honorable Prime Minister, I have a situation that maybe it can only be addressed by your office, and I want it to be taken seriously. The town planning that is taking place in towns somewhere is forgetting the educational sector. We have towns that have been planned without provision of school building. And then now, beginning of the year, I'm sitting around there with a lot of children got nowhere to go to school. Because government, we have money to build a school or to construct a school. But you go to the municipality, there's no land. And you wonder how the town planning was done without the provision of institutional land. And it's high time that the policies are enforced so that these people happen to abide by the rules and the regulations that are there. And as regional councillors, we are suffering. Educational directors, they gave up. They will send letters and so on. And you will find a municipality is charging over 10 million or 6 million for a piece of land. Where will we get money if we are already struggling to get money to build a school? What are the social responsibility of municipality towards the residents of the town? So those are things that I put towards you so that we find a way how we are going to solve this situation. I'm very sorry, Honorable Governor, that I might not be too loud than I used to be.
Let me can I show you something? Don't worry. Next time, I check nice.
Thanks, but it's okay. FNB Insurance checks nicer.
At FNB Insurance, we provide cover for all your valuables, from your phone to your laptop to your car. FNB Insurance. You value it, we cover it. T's and C's apply.
Business 7 also keeps track of what is happening elsewhere in the region. So here are the top business stories which made highlights in sub-Saharan Africa last week. Let's take a look.
Here's what's been making the business headlines in sub-Saharan Africa this week. African leaders proposed new global taxes and reforms to financial institutions to help fund climate change action at Africa's first climate summit.
We demand a fair playing ground for our countries to access the investment needed to unlock the potential and translate it into opportunities.
The Nairobi Declaration, which forms the basis of their negotiating position at November's COP28 summit, urged support for a global regime that included carbon taxes on the fossil fuel trade, maritime transport, and aviation. Despite suffering some of the worst impacts of climate change, Africa only receives about 12% of the $300 billion in annual financing it needs to cope, according to researchers. Anglo-Americans De Beers said on Friday that it is confident ongoing talk with South Africa's biggest mine workers union will avert a wage strike at the country's largest diamond mine. On Tuesday, the National Union of Mine Workers said it was planning a strike at the Venetia mine as De Beers could only afford a 6% pay increase against demands for 9%. Ghana's sovereign wealth fund will invest almost $33 million in what is set to be the West African country's first lithium mine, and take a minority stake in its developer, Atlantic Lithium, the company said in a statement. It's a sign of a surge in interest in companies that produce the key electric vehicle battery metal, amid the clean energy transition. Zambia has agreed to return control of Konkola copper mines to India's Vedanta Resources, Mines Minister Paul Kabuswe said on Tuesday. That ends a row over the ownership of assets that erupted in 2019, when authorities seized the mines. Kabuswe said Vedanta has pledged to invest more than $1.2 billion to increase output and repay outstanding debts. And finally, a long-awaited light railway began operations in Lagos on Monday. The Blue Line links the Nigerian megacity's mainland, where most people live, to the more affluent Lagos Island, where many businesses are headquartered. Authorities say a journey that once took more than 2 hours in Lagos's infamous traffic gridlocks will now take 15 minutes.
Renowned South African economist Davy Rood visited Namibia on a Monday, where he was the guest speaker at a business breakfast hosted by Network Namibia. We asked him whether countries that are linked to the South African rand should consider depegging, given the volatility of the currency.
Say, for instance, you were the governor of the central bank of Wakanda, and Wakanda was pegged to the South African rand. Given the volatility of the South African rand and its impact on countries that are pegged to it, would you consider depegging from the rand?
Well, there are many countries that are pegged, the currencies that are pegged to the South African rand. I will not advise countries that are currently pegged to the South African currency, the rand, to depeg from that for various reasons. One is that the South African economy is by far the biggest economy in the region. We have excellent financial systems and financial institutions in South Africa and in the region, and it's always better to be part of something bigger than to be part of something smaller. Having said that, there are some significant changes happening in the world of finance, and I think in future things like, for example, central bank digital currencies will play a far bigger role, and I think private sector digital currencies will also play a far bigger role. And in future, many currencies are simply going to disappear, and maybe in future even the South African rand will disappear. So the best I would advise the countries around South Africa is to stay with the South African currency for now, but beware of some significant technological changes that's taking place in the world of finance, and in future we might be using different kinds of currencies, and currencies that will specialize in certain things. Some currencies for savings as an example, other currencies for payments as an example, and maybe in future we will only have a few big currencies in the world, and a couple of those will probably be some private sector driven digital currencies like Bitcoin as an example as well. So the world of finance is changing, but for now my advice will be to stay with the South African currency, the rand, for now at least.
Business 7 also asked Davy Rood whether Eskom will ever return to its former glory, or whether Namibia should rather look for alternatives when it comes to importing electricity.
What are the chances that Eskom will get its house in order and will become the power supply it used to be?
I'm afraid Eskom is not going to become the power supply it used to be again. What is happening at Eskom is that it's being broken into smaller pieces. The generation, the transmission and the distribution parts are being broken or separated. And I think the only part that will survive will be the transmission part. For the rest, the private sector is getting more and more involved in the generation and the distribution part. And I think in future we're going to see far more private sector participation. This huge company that became used to the past couple of decades, that company is going to disappear and it will be replaced by something else. The transmission part will probably remain in the hands of the state, but for the rest, most of that will be privatized. In fact, part of that has already been privatized. I've done some calculations, and for the past 10 years, Eskom has lost something like a third of its market as the private sector is slowly taking over the role of Eskom.
What does that mean for South Africa's ability or capacity to export power to neighboring countries like Namibia?
I think South Africa won't be in a position to export the same amount of electricity it used to, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because technological changes will make it possible in future for smaller power generators to contribute to the national network as well. And I think that is something that Namibia should be looking for as well, and just look for alternatives to generate electricity. There are so many alternatives. You've got a huge and a very sunny country, and that's what you need if you want to generate solar power, as an example. And I think that's the future of electricity. It will be smaller and more localized as well. So don't look at Eskom for your future electricity needs.
Every day, you make choices that make you legendary. Journey together with us on the path to securing your legacy as a member of the League of Legends. With the Select Platinum Bundle Fee Premium Bank offering, you will access tools that will enable you to thrive. If you earn 850,000 Namibian dollars per annum or more, you can apply for this offering today via bankvinted.com.na for only 447 Namibian dollars per month. Bank Vinted, a member of Capricorn Group.
Make sure you read the article in Business 7 today, where local economist Joseph Shihama explores what BRICS mean to the Namibian economy. Of course, the BRICS summit took place in South Africa last week, and various countries were invited to join the bloc in 2024. Reuters has more.
In a move aimed at growing the bloc's clout, leaders of the BRICS group of developing nations have decided to invite 6 new countries to become members of the group. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said on Thursday,
"We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of BRICS. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
Expansion could also pave the way for dozens of interested countries to seek admission to BRICS, which is currently made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. On Thursday, Russian President Vladimir Putin told the BRICS summit that Moscow intends to deepen ties with African countries and that it would remain a reliable partner for food and fuel supplies. The debate over enlargement has topped the agenda at the 3-day summit taking place in Johannesburg. And while all the BRICS members publicly expressed support for growing the bloc, there were divisions among leaders over how much and how quickly. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the bloc's expansion should be an example to other global institutions founded in the 20th century that have become outdated.
Central bank governors of SADC met in Swakopmund last week, and the governor of the Bank of Namibia, Johannes Gavagab, also spoke at the occasion. Here's more.
In the most recent times, we had droughts in Namibia in 2013, we had in 2016, 2019 drought was quite devastating. 2022, we have heard from our Prime Minister, it caused high levels of food insecurity, it caused water problems in our country. And in 2023, if we listen to all the baseline forecasts, another El Nino is looming. So the Prime Minister said the government is going to intervene until June next year to try and assist. That is how real climate change is. So it affects productivity, it affects water, it affects food security in the country. That's how it affects the nation. So how should we think about this as a central bank? In as much as I agree with the mandate of central bank being price stability and financial stability, the way we think about this is what Sabina mentioned to, alluded to, is we have got the ability to analyze. The research capability of most central banks is quite good. So we need to use that capacity to analyze and monitor, to understand what are the credit risk caused by all these, what's the inflation risk that's being brought by all these, and based on that we need to decide how do we craft our monetary policy. That's the first one. The second one is on financial stability. You know, as central bankers, we supervise most of the commercial banks. So we need to understand how these risks translating into risk at our central the commercial banks. And our commercial banks must really, in the investment and lending decisions, start thinking very, very seriously in terms of stress testing. What's happening? Our non-banking financial sector, the insurance particularly, because insurance manages and distributes risk. So the nexus between commercial banks and the insurance is something we need to understand. That's the way we think about at the Bank of Namibia in terms of the risk that climate is introducing into the economy.
The African Union plans to launch an African credit rating agency next year. Reuters tells the story.
The African Union is planning to launch a new African credit rating agency next year. The aim is to address the group's concerns that ratings given to countries on the continent are unfair, an official told Reuters. The agency would craft its own assessment of the risks in lending to African countries. It would be based on the continent, be self-funded, and would add context to the information investors consider when deciding whether to buy African bonds or lend privately to countries, the African Union said. The African Union and leaders of member nations alleged that the big three ratings agencies, Moody's, Fitch, and S&P Global Ratings, do not fairly assess the risk of lending to African countries. They also claim that they are quicker to downgrade them during crises such as the global health crisis. Broadly speaking, credit ratings are designed to gauge a borrower's risk of default and factor in the terms on which banks and others will lend to them. All three ratings agencies have denied bias and say their ratings follow the same formula across continents. Moody's, Fitch, and S&P Global Ratings did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
Good evening and welcome to Sunset News.
Dutchman stays in list A in his speech, rate in taxes, and how much.
After the break, we take a look at the sports.
We bring you
economic indicators, tomorrow's weather, and sports. I am Aina Raiza Kweyong.
That's it for Business 7 this week. Thank you very much for joining us. We're playing out with a Reuters video of Nigerian students who build a smart compost system that turns food waste into manure. Enjoy, and we'll see you again next week.
This team of students have won Nigeria's annual Kids Innovation Challenge. They built a smart compost system capable of transforming food waste into manure. As Nigeria grapples with significant food shortages, the team believes their innovation could have profound implications, enabling farmers to convert waste into manure efficiently.
Our project is an Arduino-based smart compost system. It was fabricated with a grinding and a mixing machine.
Hosted by the Destiny Trust, the annual Kids Innovation Challenge teaches coding and robotics to children. It aims to contribute to Nigeria's tech sector by fostering a space for innovative ideas to flourish. Abimbola Ojenike is the co-founder of the Destiny Trust.
We have many tech talents that Africa can take advantage of, and our own work is to go and identify them, train them, and put them back into the economy.
Since its inception in 2018, the Kids Innovation Hub has trained about 676 children. This year's challenge saw a wide range of entries, including a baby watch system and a platform to assist farmers in moving produce from their farms to customers. Uchendo David is part of the winning team.
What this project does is that it gets organic waste like our foods, our wasted foods, grass, spoiled yam, all sort of wasted foods, depending on the type. And then it can be able to turn this wasted food into compost manure. It can be able to turn it by itself, automated. So you have to just put in little or no effort in monitoring it.
The winning team received a prize of 200,000 naira, that's about $266, and an HP laptop. Oluyemi Sopade is in the winning team.
This is an encouragement for us as Kingdom Tech. I will work towards more projects because of this is amazing. Like we are happy about it.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.